Hello everyone, it's Foo here, and my hype for Scarlet and Violet is increasing day by day. We recently got a new trailer. We saw Farigiraf revealed. I hope that's how you pronounce it, but if not, I'm sure you guys will tell me. As well as like a ton of other really interesting information, which may or may not have been intentionally revealed, so that's all very interesting. But today I wanted to look at some of the new attacks that have been revealed. And some of them look so powerful that they may already be under threat of the potential ban hammer, which I will definitely talk about in this video too. So I believe we've seen 5 new attacks revealed so far, and 2 of them seem like signature moves, which I'll go over now. So we've seen Bitter Blade, which is used by Ceruledge, a very cool fire ghost type Pokemon. This Pokemon has an amazing design, and I think it has the potential to be very, very strong. Being based around swords, I could see it being like a sword stance sweeper. The typing is fantastic offensively. We don't have its full moveset confirmed, but I can definitely see it having moves like Shadow Sneak, Sacred Sword, Shadow Claw, and its new signature move, Bitter Blade, which is a fire type move that drains the opponent's HP. I think this is a fantastic addition to the game because currently a lot of fire type physical sweepers rely on Flare Blitz, which is a very powerful fire type move, really strong, but it does damage the user with recoil damage. And that means that generally fire type physical sweepers are not long for this world. They do tend to faint quite easily. Bitter Blade is the opposite of that. It will drain the opponent's HP, meaning that Ceruledge may be able to stick around longer on the field, which is fantastic. So I'm really happy that Bitter Blade has been added. Ceruledge's equivalent Pokemon in Pokemon Scarlet will be Armarouge, which learns the Armor Cannon attack, which I think sounds very strong. So Armarouge is a fire psychic type Pokemon. Psychic types generally have very good move pools, so I'm excited to see what other moves Armarouge learns. And Armor Cannon sounds like a really strong fire type move. It's a special move and it drops the user's defense and special defense stats, but I could see this being like a special fire type close combat. Very spammable, and it could be extremely powerful. I'm just hoping that Armarouge is a good special attacker. I hope it has a high special attack stat. There's a risk with this Pokemon that it has very high defenses and not so good speed or special attack, and that would really suck because fire types tend not to be the best defensive Pokemon. So I'm hoping that it's got a really high special attack so that this Armor Cannon move can be used to its greatest potential. All in all, I love these 2 Pokemon and can't wait to try them out in battle. The next move I want to talk about is Trailblaze, and we got a bit more information about this move in the last trailer that was released this week. Trailblaze appears to be a grass type move. We saw a grass type terrestrialized Sudowoodo using it, and it was neutral against a fairy type Fidough, but it was not very effective against a flying type terrestrialized Fidough. And it boosted Sudowoodo's speed after it was used. So it looks like it's going to deal damage and boost speed, maybe a bit like Flame Charge, but potentially grass type. I think that's really great, really strong, could definitely help out some powerful grass type Pokemon. I'm thinking it's likely going to be a physical attack because Sudowoodo is a more powerful physical attacker than special attacker, although it doesn't really mean anything. Like in-game fights, they use all sorts of weird sets and moves. But if it is a physical move, then Pokemon that could really benefit from this are things like Serena, Breloom, which are a bit slower but very powerful physical grass types, and definitely Kartana too. Now that we don't have access to Dynamax moves like Max Airstream, Kartana would definitely appreciate a different way to boost up its speed. If Kartana can use Trailblaze, get a KO and a Beast Boost to boost its attack, and also boost its speed at the same time with Trailblaze speed boost, that would be really terrifying. I don't think that this is just good for the physical attackers either. I think that special attackers that just want to use the move for the speed boost could definitely use that as well. So something like Roserade might really appreciate going for this move just to get a speed boost so that it could then sweep with its special coverage. All in all, Trailblaze looks really exciting and I can't wait to learn more about it. The 4th move I want to talk about is Tera Blast. Now we know a bit about this move already. It matches the user's Terra type. So if you terrestrialize that Pokemon, it will have Tera Blast, which will match that typing. So it gives you the coverage move of whatever Terra type that you want to choose, which is good. It also is based off either your attack stat or your special attack stat, depending on which is higher, which again is great. The only issue is that terrestrialization looks like really strong. In competitive, it could be quite hard to predict. So we don't want it to be like too powerful, because then it means that terrestrialization probably becomes less competitive just because it's harder to predict. Fortunately, it looks like Tera Blast is around base 80 power. So we saw a Drifloon use Icy Wind and then a super effective Tera Blast. And looking at the amount of damage that it dealt, it definitely looked like Tera Blast was around base 80 power, which isn't too strong. That's probably a good area for it to be in. So it makes terrestrialization strong. You've always got a good move to use for that Terra type, but it's not going to be like an immediate KO that your opponent can't predict around. So I think that that's a good place for Tera Blast to be. The last move that I want to talk about today is, in my opinion, definitely the most interesting move and 100% the most controversial too. So this is going to be Shed Tail that we know Cyclizar can use. It's got a really strong effect. It puts in a substitute and then switches Cyclizar out for another of your Pokemon. So it's amazing for momentum, because whatever your incoming Pokemon is, they have a substitute to protect them straight away. It does come at quite a significant cost, because we've seen Cyclizar use it and it lost half of its HP, which is a big price to pay. But having that substitute in for the incoming Pokemon puts you in a fantastic position. Your opponent may break that substitute, but it means that your Pokemon doesn't take any damage, so that you can use it for positioning some of your frailer but stronger wall breakers or sweepers in a very good position to then either take an opponent's Pokemon out or maybe set up for a sweep. I think that this move will be better in certain formats compared to others. I think it will be better in singles. This is because you're only ever going up against one Pokemon at a time, so it's likely that you're only going to have to take one incoming attack that turn, meaning that your substitute will definitely protect the incoming Pokemon against at least one attack. There are very few moves that would break through the substitute, so that's pretty good that your incoming Pokemon will be protected. Whereas in doubles, because the opponent has two Pokemon, they have the opportunity to target into your slot with two Pokemon. One may be able to break the substitute and the other may be able to damage the incoming Pokemon. So it's not as free a switch for the incoming Pokemon in doubles. There's more risk involved. Also, I think that Shed Tail will be better in 6v6 formats compared to 4v4. The unofficial Smogon format allows you to play 6v6 singles or 6v6 doubles, whereas the official VGC format is generally 4v4 doubles. Because you have to pay half of your HP to use this Shed Tail move, your Pokemon's HP is at much more of a premium when you have fewer Pokemon. So VGC 4v4, this is a much more expensive price to pay to use Shed Tail than 6v6 when you have more Pokemon, therefore more resources, so you can afford to lose half of your Pokemon's HP a little bit easier in those formats. So I think generally Shed Tail will be strongest in 6v6 singles. I think that's where it will probably shine the most, and you'll see it less frequently in VGC formats where you're 4v4 doubles. It remains to be seen about how effectively Cyclizar will be able to use this move. We don't know anything really about Cyclizar's stats. It could be really bulky, it could be really fast. We have had a bit of flavor text stating that it will be fast, but I do not trust anything that the Pokemon Company gives us after the poor Vikavolt debacle. That Pokemon deserved so much better. I think it's likely that Cyclizar will be fast, meaning that you'll put that substitute in at the beginning of the turn and switch out, and that gives your opponent a chance to break the substitute on that same turn. If Cyclizar is slower, it means that it would take an incoming attack before it uses Shed Tail, which is risky because it means that that incoming attack might put you below the threshold at which you're able to use Shed Tail. So if it does take half of your HP and the incoming attack takes you below half HP, you might not be left with enough HP to use Shed Tail. So that would kind of suck because it would fail. But if you are able to tank a move and then use Shed Tail, the incoming Pokemon would have a perfectly intact substitute at the beginning of the next turn, so they are absolutely free to use whatever move they want to use. If they want to do a setup move like Shell Smash, Dragon Dance, the opponent has to break that substitute before they can do any damage to your Pokemon, so it gives you a really, really amazing position to potentially sweep. And there are ways that Cyclizar could be slow if you want to use like an Iron Ball or a Lagging Tail. That may be something that you want to consider. We'll just have to see what Cyclizar's stats are at the end of the day. But are there any other Pokemon that may be able to learn Shed Tail? I could think of 2 Pokemon that we know can shed or regenerate their tails. One is Sceptile. We know Mega Sceptile launches its tail as an attack and it can regrow that tail. So maybe Sceptile will be able to learn Shed Tail. But what would be even cooler and pretty crazy to see is if Slowpoke could learn this move. Now Slowpoke we know can regenerate its tail. In Gold and Silver, Slowpoke tails were harvested, and as per its Sun and Moon Pokedex, we know that Slowpoke can regrow its tail. And this would be amazing because its evolutions, Slowbro and Slowking, are really good competitively, and they are generally very good pivot Pokemon because they have the Regenerator ability, which heals them whenever they switch out. So you can switch them in to take an attack, and then they can switch out or use Teleport, which is a momentum gaining move, and that switches them out so that you can bring something else in safely while Slowbro and Slowpoke heal back some of the HP damage that they've taken. These Pokemon would be absolutely amazing with Shed Tail because, one, they're very slow. So as I said with Cyclizar, if you make your Pokemon really slow and they're able to take an incoming attack, whatever comes in will then have a free substitute, and they are in an absolutely amazing position to put pressure on the opponent. And 2, they have this Regenerator ability. So with Shed Tail, you have to sacrifice some of your health, and Regenerator, when you switch out to bring the next Pokemon in, would heal back a good chunk of that. So that's why the Slowpoke family would be absolutely amazing with Shed Tail. It really remains to be seen whether anything else will learn Shed Tail. It could easily be a Cyclizar only signature move, which would be cool to see because it gives Cyclizar some interesting utility that nothing else would have. We also have to consider that Cyclizar seems to have some relationship to the legendary Pokemon Miraidon and Koraidon, and so maybe these legendary Pokemon will learn the move too, but generally legendary Pokemon are better as offensive Pokemon, and you tend not to see them being used in the utility capacity. It would seem quite strange to sacrifice half of your legendary Pokemon's HP to switch into something else. So even if these Pokemon can learn them, I don't think that we'll see widespread use, but I really can't wait to see what Cyclizar can do with the move. However, I think we should temper our excitement about this move because it may already be on the chopping block to be banned in certain formats. The move seems to function in a similar way to Baton Pass. Currently, Baton Pass is the only way to pass a substitute to another Pokemon. If you have an active substitute and you manually switch out or use a move like U-turn or Volt Switch, you lose that substitute. However, if you use Baton Pass, that substitute can get passed to the next Pokemon. The thing with Baton Pass is you can also pass stat boosts. So if you go for an agility and get +2 speed, that can also be passed to the incoming Pokemon. We've already seen that Cyclizar can learn Shift Gear, which boosts your speed by 2 stages and boosts your attack, which is a great setup move, and it would be amazing if you can pass those stat boosts to an incoming Pokemon as well as a substitute, because it would put them in an incredible position to sweep. The issue is, in the unofficial Smogon format, Baton Pass is banned. There is a long and controversial history around this ban. Historically, people created 6 Pokemon teams based around Baton Pass chains that had very little counterplay because they had stuff like Magic Bounce Espeon to prevent things like Roar and Taunt and Whirlwind that could potentially stop your Baton Pass chain. They had Soundproof Mr. Mime to prevent Perish Song. There was very little counterplay to these teams, and the idea behind it was to stack as many stat boosts as you can, so get loads of speed boosts so you have the initiative against your opponent, you know that you can move before they can act. You get loads of defense boosts so that they can't break through your substitutes, and then you get all of your offensive boosts so that your stored power Pokemon at the end of the chain could easily break through your opponent's team. Smogon initially restricted this to only 3 Baton Pass Pokemon on a team. This is more than enough Pokemon to get a very strong Baton Pass chain established. Then they restricted it to only 1 Pokemon being able to learn Baton Pass, but you could still use things like Geomancy, Spore, Smeargle that could Baton Pass crazy boosts to incoming Pokemon. You could use Iron Defense, Swords Dance, speed boosts, Scolipede, which could Baton Pass crazy boosts to incoming Pokemon. So then they restricted it even further so that you could only have 1 Baton Pass Pokemon that could only boost either speed or any other stat to the incoming Pokemon, which it was just becoming quite complex, the number of addenda that they had to add to this ban. Even that wasn't enough when it came to Generation 7. there were some amazing Pokemon that could receive just speed boosts and still be too powerful. So things like Magearna and Necrozma were very strong Pokemon that could learn stored power, that were really bulky, could boost their own defenses and become a real menace once they had those speed boosts. And so Smogon reevaluated and kind of decided we can't just keep adding extra clauses onto this weird ban, so we're just going to ban Baton Pass outright. It was controversial at the time. A lot of people felt that it would have been better to just ban Baton Pass plus any stat boosts, but that wasn't the route that was taken. I understand that a lot of people will still disagree with this choice, but that is the current state of affairs in Generation 8. Going into Generation 9, it remains to be seen whether that ban will remain. I think it's highly likely that it will, but whether that will affect Shed Tail also remains to be seen. I think there are 3 reasons why Shed Tail may avoid being included in this ban. Firstly, it could well only be limited to Cyclizar, so as long as Cyclizar is not broken while using Shed Tail, it probably will be fine. Even if the move itself in other hands would be super strong, Cyclizar itself may not be so strong, so that may allow Shed Tail to remain. 2, previously the best Baton Pass users were things with Speed Boost, where you could passively rack up stat boosts and keep going for Protect and Substitute with the leftovers to keep you relatively healthy so that you could have multiple goes at this Baton Pass chain. Cyclizar does not have the speed boost, and in fact when it uses Shed Tail it has to sacrifice so much of its HP that this strategy is basically a one-time only thing. If you take any damage outside of the half of your health that you sacrifice when you use this move, you would only be able to use it once. So I think that that's another reason why this may avoid being lumped in with the Baton Pass ban. And thirdly, Cyclizar, though we've seen it use a stat boosting move in Shift Gear, it has to manually use that move. It has to manually use Shed Tail, and this is a much trickier setup than just speed boosting. It gives your opponent a number of opportunities to stop Cyclizar from using these moves, and therefore there'll potentially be more counterplay to this move. All of this being said, I'm optimistic that Shed Tail will not be banned automatically and that we will get to see some use. So those are some of my thoughts about the new moves that we've seen revealed for Scarlet and Violet. If you think I've missed anything, or if you think that I've got anything wrong, then please let me know in the comment section below. I just want to get involved in the conversations and I love finding out more about what's to come. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. All that's left to be said is I've been Foo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.